What's the biggest game you've ever played? Red Dead 2, Skyrim, The Witcher 3? Well, I hate to break it to you, but those games aren't even close to the biggest. What is up, everybody? Chaos here. Today we're going to take a look at some of the absolute biggest video game worlds of all time. These are spanning, sprawling, and some of these are actually pretty insane. I mean, they're pretty popular, while others, you may never have heard of these titles. So let me know which ones you've actually experienced for yourself. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Just Cause 3. That's how we're going to kick it off. Released in 2015, it was the second to last game in the franchise, but many consider it to be the best. Yes, the story was nothing special. But is anybody really playing Just Cause for the story? No, you're not. The open world sandbox explosion fest is why you're there. I mean, you can do the craziest things you can imagine, and then topping your previously insanity record is the goal. Set in a fictional island in the Mediterranean, you have to fight to liberate it from an evil dictator with this wide array of weapons, vehicles, and gadgets. And perhaps the best part was zipping around the map with your grapple hook and wingsuit like some makeshift version of Batman, and there was a lot of map to see. It was huge. Just Cause 3's open world is approximately 390 square miles, putting it on this list of biggest game worlds ever. Definitely worth a try if you never have. Speaking of Just Cause, let's stick with it. Just Cause 4. The sequel is next up because what is a video game sequel if not just one giant one-up of the last game, or at least that's how sequels used to work. Just Cause 4 dropped in 2018. It's currently the last game in the franchise, largely due to the underperformance. Now, once again, featured this massive game world with a seemingly endless list of things to try, and the gameplay wasn't as polished this time around, and there was quite a few technical problems. This map, though, was a whopping 636 square miles, but it doesn't quite have the same fun factor as its predecessor. I guess that's the trade-off for making everything bigger, doesn't necessarily make everything better. With that being said, though, it's going to get bigger. Final Fantasy 15. Who's excited for Final Fantasy 16? The last mainline Final Fantasy game was dropped back in 2016 for the PS4 and the Xbox One, and later got a juicy PC port, plus it was a launch title for the Google Stadia, but nobody really cares about that anymore, especially not Google. This open-world action RPG featured a lot of departures from the normal Final Fantasy formula, and it was a huge change of pace from FF14, but it also featured an absolutely ridiculous game world. It's approximately 750 square miles in playable area, which is by far the biggest in the franchise's history, and it's still one of the biggest RPG maps of all time. Story? Mixed bag, I guess, from the community, but it did have good gameplay, beautiful visuals, and a massive world that would take you forever to explore, so give it a shot if you haven't, especially with the long-awaited sequel finally dropping next year. At number 7, Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Now, the new Ghost Recon series has not been positively received. Yes, the old Ghost Recon games are awesome. Who remembers Advanced Warfighter on the 360? Remember the classic titles on the Xbox and the PC? How would the mighty have actually fallen? Now, Breakpoint, it's more like a copy-paste of The Division, but with more microtransactions and a borderline pay-to-win gameplay loop. Yes, the gameplay is beautiful. The massive world is cool to explore. But with everything else about it is a problem, I'm not going to give it a pass just because it's a really big map. Ghost Recon Breakpoint features an open world that's approximately 781 square miles big, making it one of the largest Ubisoft sandboxes of all time and definitely the biggest Ghost Recon game ever made. But unfortunately, the gaming community did not like it and the game flopped. Now, it's unclear if Ghost Recon is ever going to make a comeback at this point, but hopefully, if Ubisoft decides to do another one, they remember to keep it closer to the classics than the new stuff. Nobody wants an open-world Ghost Recon game. They want a classic tactical shooter. The Crew 2. Released in 2018, it takes the cake for being the single biggest Ubisoft sandbox of all time, at the time of this video's recording at least. Open world racing game following in the original footsteps with some really cool visuals, addicting driving controls, super engaging driving, and scaled down versions of real world locations. The Crew 2 takes place in a much smaller version of a section of the US that is painstakingly recreated for the game and allows you to free roam the entire thing. The map is estimated to be somewhere between 3,100 and 4,400 square miles, and if you're a fan of games like Forza, go give this one a try. At number 5, Fallout 76. Now, it feels a little unfair to put it on this list since it's technically a multiplayer game, and those are just naturally going to be bigger in size, but there's still a lot of single-player content. Bethesda swears you can play it solo, so here it is. Fallout 76 dropped in 2018. It was a radical departure from the Fallout formula, mainly by being complete, not really goodness. Yeah, it was supposed to be some kind of hybrid between online survival and Fallout 4, and it ended up being boring, repetitive, and buggy. It was overpriced, but after a few years of updates and Bethesda swallowing their pride, it's actually in a good spot. solid community of players. Plus, with a game world of roughly 24,000 square miles, it earns the number 5 spot today. So if you haven't played Fallout 76 in a few years, maybe go reinstall it, give it another try. It's not quite like a No Man's Sky comeback story, but it's pretty close. Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall. Woo! The Elder Scrolls games are known for having worlds that are massive, even if they physically aren't. Skyrim, for example, has a world that people spend years exploring despite the fact that it's only about 14 square miles. However, this wasn't always the case. Elder Scrolls 2 actually had one of the biggest game maps ever recorded, especially for an offline single-player game. According to estimates, Daggerfall's map hovers somewhere around 161,000 square kilometers. That translates to around 100,000 square miles, and I'm not making that up. There's over 15,000 cities, towns, villages, dungeons. Yeah, the game is freaking massive, and it's a little confusing why you never hear about it much anymore. I guess some people see it as kind of the Bad Batch of Elder Scrolls, but there it is. It dropped in 96. Still has amazing gameplay. It was way ahead of its time, and we still have 3 left. Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now, it debuted all the way back in November of 1982. Since become a staple of Microsoft's software library. What started out as a technical feat of simulation has turned into this app. It's a visual treat, let's put it that way. Also being a fantastic simulator to boot. The latest version dropped in 2020, and it received praise. The controls, the breathtaking visuals. Many called it the best way to see the world during the initial COVID-19 lockdowns, and it holds up. You can fly planes around the entire world in a near-perfect recreation of planet Earth. You heard me all. Here we go. 196 million square miles of the planet Earth are in this game. Makes it one of the biggest ever made. Yeah, but you know what's bigger? Minecraft. Giant custom world. Sandbox game that dropped in 2011 after a couple years of beta testing, quickly took the world by storm. You know the story. As of today, Minecraft is the single best-selling video game of all time. 238 million copies. Now, there's a few different gameplay modes, but much of Minecraft's enjoyment factor comes from the creativity of a player and their ability to make their own fun out of the giant world. Minecraft's vanilla sandbox is approximately 2.4 billion square miles in the surface area. Makes it one of the biggest game worlds ever created. Now, granted, most Minecraft players aren't going to explore the whole thing, but I have no doubt there is a passionate portion of the community that's done it. Minecraft's different gameplay modes make the game world feel practically infinite. You can do different things, different biomes, different parts of the sandbox, create anything you want. It is massive, and it's not doing anything but getting bigger. But at number 1 today, the biggest game world out there. No Man's Sky. Sci-fi survival, exploration game, tons of empty promises when it launched, and countless updates later, it's a good game. What started out as a shallow, repetitive space exploration game has turned into one of the most popular survival games on the market. You got varied gameplay, addicting co-op, multiplayer, and a big world. Because the game is largely procedurally generated, the developers were actually able to construct an entire virtual galaxy within the confines of the game. So, according to some wizards on the internet, the game world of No Man's Sky is made up of approximately 18 quintillion planets, which roughly translate to 317 septillion square kilometers, which that puts it roughly 197 septillion square miles. Yes, I said septillion. Number with 7 commas shoved in it, I think. No Man's Sky is by far the biggest game world ever made, and I'm not sure if that record will ever be broken. And there you have it. Hope you guys enjoy it. Go get lost in one of these huge worlds, and I'll see you soon.